Being a truck driver for going on 20 years now, I've seen my share of outrageous shit being on the road day and night. Crazy drivers, road rage incidents, and car accidents as soon as they happen. I even witnessed a high-speed chase once where the police apprehended a kidnapping and murder suspect. You name it, I've probably most likely seen it. Because I've been doing this for so long, I swear that I've seen it all. After obtaining my CDL, I got my first trucking job in 1984 when I was 21 years old. As a little boy, I knew from a very young age that I was going to be a truck driver when I grew up. My father was one, and so was my grandfather. I always hated the fact that my dad was gone all of the time, but he didn't seem to mind being away from home so much. I think it was mostly because my mom and him didn't really get along, so it gave him time to get away from her. And when he was home, he would tell me stories about all of the beautiful places, and sometimes not so beautiful places, that he got to travel to. And he even taught me some of the trucker codes, which back then I thought was the coolest thing ever. Once I got older, I'd say probably around my teenage years, during summer vacation when I was off from school, my dad started taking me out on the road with him. I absolutely loved spending time with him on the truck. Not only did it give us time to bond, but I learned a lot about trucking during those years. Unfortunately, my dad unexpectedly passed away before my 18th birthday, so he wasn't able to see my wishes of doing what I always dreamed of come to fruition. My mom and I were never really that close, but once I decided to become a trucker like my dad had been, for some reason it pissed her off, and that's when we really grew apart. I haven't seen or talked to her in over 20 years now. And I think the main reason why I never got married or had any kids was because of how dysfunctional my family was. I didn't want to bring a kid into this world and subject them to the same kind of upbringing that I had. It can get kind of lonely out here sometimes when you don't have a significant other, or at least someone to talk to keep you company, but it's something I've gotten used to. Listening to music is the one thing that helps the time pass by quicker for me. I just got done picking up my load in Lexington, Kentucky, and now I'm headed up to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to drop it off. I've been to Pennsylvania a few times before. It's a nice place, a lot of farmland until you hit the major cities like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, but this will be my first time in Lancaster. It isn't often that my company gets a delivery that has to go up there. Actually, when I picked up my load, my boss told me that we only get an order from this particular customer once every year. I've got at least a 9-hour drive ahead of me, longer if there's a lot of traffic or I decide to stop and take a rest instead of driving straight through. While on the road, one of my trucking buddies texts me and asks where I'm headed. Once I tell him, he responds with a comment about me going out into the middle of nowhere, joking that people call it the boonies and no man's land. Then he tells me, "Hey man, whatever you do, don't get lost or stuck out there, because if you do, no one is coming to get you." And then he proceeds to warn me to beware of the locals because they don't like outsiders up there. I reply, "Thanks for your concern, but I think I'll be fine." 12 hours later, I see the sign that says "Welcome to Pennsylvania." It took a little longer than I had expected to get here because there was an accident on the highway. A tractor trailer crashed and ended up flipping over, spilling all of its contents out onto the road. And of course, there was no detour that led around it, so I had no choice but to sit in traffic for hours on end and wait while they cleaned up the mess. I still have over an hour to go before I hit my actual drop-off location, but I'm running low on gas, so I decide to stop now when I come across a truck stop, just in case I don't see another one for a while after this. Stopping for gas is going to set me back probably another 20 minutes, but I'd rather be a little late than to run out of gas and get stranded out here in the middle of nowhere. When I enter, the store is completely empty except for the clerk sitting behind the counter reading a newspaper. I expect him to lower it and greet me, since I am the only customer in the store, but instead he just flips to the next page and keeps reading. I grab the couple of items that I need and then head to the register. "Is that everything?" the clerk asks, finally lowering the newspaper. "I'm getting some gas as well." He peers out the window, and when he sees my truck, he questions, "I take it you aren't from around here?" "No, I'm not. Work brought me out this way. I'm just dropping off this load about 60 miles or so from here in Lancaster, and then I'll be on my way." "What is it that you're delivering?" "To be honest, I haven't got a clue. Dispatch was kind of secretive about it when I picked it up," I tell him with a laugh. "But hey, it's none of my business. As long as I'm getting paid, I don't really care what's back there." He doesn't respond. He just gives me a cold look, like, "Yeah, right, buddy," and then starts ringing up my order. Once he tells me my total, I pay and then go on my way. "You be safe out there," he warns me as I walk out the door. "Thanks, you too," I reply, then head across the parking lot. Well, that guy was just a little odd, I think to myself as I climb up into my truck. Anyway, I brush it off and tell myself that I better get going. As I pull out of the truck stop parking lot, I just so happen to glance into my side view mirror and see the clerk standing in the doorway watching me. I stick my left hand out the window and wave as I go driving away, but he just continues to stand there, staring creepily. For the next hour, my drive is so quiet and peaceful that at first I don't notice anything out of the ordinary. But when I only have about 15 minutes left to go to get to my destination, that's when I realized that since I left the truck stop, I haven't seen any other actual businesses. It's just been farm after farm for the last 60-something miles. And another thing, I think that I've literally been the only vehicle on the road this entire time. There's been absolutely no traffic at all, besides the occasional old-fashioned black horse and buggy that I happen to pass by. And there's always an Amish man guiding the horse along with a woman, who I'm assuming must be his wife, sitting next to him. I must have passed 10 or 11 of them already, and each time that I did, both occupants gave me the same exact cold, creepy stare as the clerk had done when I stopped at that truck stop right on the Pennsylvania border. Although, he didn't appear to be Amish. At least, I don't think he was. He was dressed in everyday clothes just like I am, not like the men that I keep passing on the road, who are all wearing black suits with long beards and black felt hats, even though it's 90 degrees outside. Finally, my GPS alerts me that I have reached my destination, so I pull into a long gravel driveway that leads me up to a massive farmhouse, larger than all of the others that I've been passing by on my way up here. When I reach the top of the driveway, I park my truck and get ready to get out, when a slew of Amish men, women, and children come rushing out of not only the house, but also the numerous barns that are located on the property. There's gotta be at least 30 of them in all, just standing there, staring at me with blank looks on their faces. A nervous feeling washes over me as I think, maybe I've got the wrong place and that's why they came running out here like that. They're wondering what in the hell I'm doing on their property. Before I end up getting myself shot, I decide to give my supervisor a call, just to make sure that I'm at the right place, because in my almost 20 years of doing this, I've never once made a delivery to someone's property ever before. It's always been a business, most of the time a very large one, sometimes a smaller one, but this is definitely out of the ordinary for me. "Hey Lionel, it's Travis." "Yeah, I know I'm running a little late, but I just pulled in. I was giving you a call to make sure that I've got this right. I don't want to make a delivery to the wrong place and lose my job. I'm at a farm." He assures me that I'm at the right place, and then he tells me that since I've already passed my time limit that was allotted to make this delivery, I'm going to have to spend the night out here. I argue, "Lionel, I don't know if you've ever been out here before, but where am I supposed to park my truck for the night? The nearest truck stop is over 60 miles away." He tells me that he has been out here a few times before, and that I have a sleeper for a reason. I could park it on the side of the road somewhere if I have to. But then he says that he's good friends with a man named Amos who lives nearby, and that he will give him a call and ask if it's alright that I park my truck on his property and sleep there for the night. Assuming that he's Amish as well, I think to myself, I thought that Amish people didn't use technology, so how would he be able to call anyone here if they don't use phones? But then I brush off the thought, realizing that they obviously must have at least one phone to do business, and probably for emergencies. Otherwise, how else would these people have ordered whatever it is that's in the back of my truck right now? Oh, Lionel, one last thing before I go. When I pulled up, a huge group of people hurried out into the yard. What's up with that? They can't all possibly live here. He says that he's pretty sure that there's a festival of some sort in town every year around this time, and that they all probably gather together for that. I apologize for calling him up and bothering him, then I thank him and say goodbye. After hanging up, I take a deep breath, open the door, and start to climb down out of my truck, when 3 men begin approaching me. "Excuse me, sir, would you be so kind as to pull your truck around to the back of this barn over here?" One of them asks me, pointing to the barn that is closest to the house. "Sure, no problem," I answer, trying not to sound annoyed as I climb back into my truck. So I drive around to the back of the barn and park, then proceed to climb down out of my truck once again. The same man who asked me to move my truck tells me, "Thank you kindly, sir. My name is Caleb." Then he introduces the other 2 men with him as Thomas and Matthew. "Like I said before, it's no problem. And I'm Travis. It's very nice to meet you," I reply, holding out my hand to shake all 3 of theirs. Then I walk around to the back, open the trailer, but then stand there surprised and confused when I find it completely empty. I proceed to climb up inside and apologize. "I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's going on here. I think maybe the dock worker must have accidentally told me to take the wrong trailer. Hold on a minute while I call my supervisor." "I'm really sorry about this," I tell Caleb again, feeling slightly embarrassed and mad that I drove all this way. I mean, either way I still get paid, but even so it was a waste of my time. "Yeah, hey Lionel, it's Travis again. I think the guy at the docks gave me the wrong damn trailer. This one's empty." He apologizes and says that he'll get everything figured out and that I can head back to Kentucky in the morning. Well, what do I tell these people? I'm sure that they're going to be pissed. He tells me not to worry, that he'll sort everything out, and he'll send another guy up with the right trailer in the morning. Then he also says that he already spoke to his friend Amos, and that it won't be a problem if I park my truck on his property overnight. He has even offered to let me stay in one of the extra rooms at his house. Of course I decline and tell Lionel that I'll be fine just sleeping in my truck. He lives about a mile away and said that I can park across the street from where he lives in a large field. When I end the call and turn around, I come face to face with both Thomas and Matthew. Obviously, I'm startled. I didn't expect them to be standing right there. I didn't even hear them climb up into the truck behind me. "Excuse me," I say, but when they don't move out of the way, I politely step around them. Once I climb out and see that they haven't followed, I tell them, "You guys aren't allowed in there. It's against company policy. Now can you please come on out so that I can lock up the trailer?" They slowly make their way out, then step off to the side and begin whispering back and forth to each other, something about a festival and trying to sneak off to it later tonight. That must be the one Lionel mentioned on the phone, I think to myself. After locking up the back of my truck, I explain the issue to Caleb. He assures me that everything's alright and that it's not my fault. I'm glad he's so understanding about the situation because a lot of other people wouldn't be so nice. Then I ask, "So what's this festival that I keep hearing about?" The smile that is on his face quickly shifts to a look of concern and worry. "That festival has nothing to do with us. Those people, they don't belong here. They moved to our town 10 years ago and have brought nothing but trouble along with them. You'd be wise to stay far away from that crowd and that festival," he warns me. I thank him for his advice, but brush off his warning, thinking that maybe he's just saying all of these mean things about them because they must not be Amish like I had originally thought, and maybe they have different beliefs than him and his people do. I mean, come on, who doesn't believe in technology in this day and age? Maybe these people are actually the normal ones, and his people are the weird ones. As I start to walk off, Caleb invites me to stay for dinner. We were just about to sit down and eat. Please, join us. "Oh no, I'm fine. I have some food in my truck if I get hungry." but Caleb insists. Please, the least we could do is provide you with a nice hearty meal for coming all this way. It's truly not a problem. We have plenty of food to go around. I can see that he's obviously trying to get me to stick around, but I politely decline once again, climb up into my truck and start heading down the driveway. About a mile down the road, I start to hear music and then laughing, cheering, and shouting. And the farther I drive, a huge sign comes into view. It says, Lancaster Summer Festival. From the address that Lionel provided me with, this is the place that Amos lives, so I park my truck in the field across the street. But after 20 minutes of just sitting there, I start to get bored and curious about what's going on at the festival. And I figure, why not go on over there and see what all of the fuss is about? I mean, I'm sure I'm probably not going to find too much else to do around here. So I get out and walk up to a booth at the entrance to the driveway, where I'm assuming tickets are being sold to get into the festival, but the lady standing behind the booth tells me, "Come on in, sir. Entry is free." "Alright, thanks," I reply, as I start walking around to take a look at some things. It looks like your typical festival. There are booths set up all over the farm. People are selling a variety of things. I buy a few jars of different flavored jam, figuring that it'll be good for making some PB&J sandwiches when I'm traveling in the truck. There are kids running around playing, and a group of women are setting out food on a massive wooden table that is sitting in the backyard. Most of the men are eyeing me up, probably wondering what in the hell this outsider is doing here. I do notice that every single person there, man, woman, and child, are all wearing black. I figure it has something to do with their religion, kind of like the Amish men who were all wearing the black suits in the middle of summer. I walk around for a little while longer, and then I'm just about to leave and start heading back to my truck when a bell starts to ring. I look around to see what's going on, and that's when everyone starts heading toward the table in the backyard. I get caught in the crowd, and a young lady grabs me by the hand and says, "Follow me. We need to get you washed up and changed into some clean clothes." I stop and protest. "Hold on a second, I was just leaving." "Oh no, you must stay for dinner. This is the best part of the festival." "Well, I can just wear this, can't I?" I ask, referring to the t-shirt and jean shorts that I have on. "Oh no, you must be freshly washed and in clean clothes to sit down and have dinner with us." Not wanting to offend her, but feeling extremely uncomfortable at the same time and wanting to get the hell out of there, I tell her, "Well, I have a change of clothes in my truck. It's just across the road. I can go change and come back." "Nonsense. I have nice clean clothes here that have just been washed and ironed." So she leads the way into one of the many houses on the property, and then upstairs to the third floor. There is a wooden sign on the door that she stops in front of, with the name Susanna carved into it. I look up and down the hall at the other 5 or 6 doors, and they all have signs with the names carved into them too. When we were on our way up the stairs, I noticed that the second floor was arranged just the same. I wonder how many people live in this one house. I mean, it is pretty big, but damn, I can't imagine living with this many people. She twists the knob and we enter the room. Then she pulls an all-black suit out of the closet, hands it to me, and then guides me back out into the hallway to the bathroom. I quickly wash up and change, then head back downstairs and outside. As soon as I walk out the door into the backyard, I see that it's now getting dark and that there are torches set up and lit surrounding the table. The woman Susanna, along with a group of women, are waiting for me. 2 of them grab me by the hand and lead me to a seat at the table. They begin introducing themselves, hurling names at me so fast that I'm only able to make out a few: Mary Elizabeth, Louise, and Sarah. Once I'm seated, they begin to get really flirty, running their hands through my hair and down along the sides of my face, causing me to blush a little. They tell me how handsome I am, and at first, I like all of the attention. For a moment, I even forget where I am, until the sound of a gunshot echoes through the air. I turn around thinking, what in the hell is going on? And that's when I see a man holding a rifle. He shot it up in the air, I think kind of as a signal or something, to let everyone know that it's time to eat. At least, I hope that's all it was. My thoughts are confirmed when everyone floods over to the table, which is now full of food. All different types of meat, pork chops, ham, turkey, chicken, roast beef, meatloaf, they have it all, as well as mashed potatoes, noodles, a few different soups, and tons of vegetables. I even see some shoe fly pie, which I haven't had since I was a young boy, when my grandmother used to always make it for the holidays. One of the women grabs my plate and starts walking around the table, piling it full of food. Then she sits it down in front of me and proceeds to pick up my fork and start to feed me. I take the first bite, but then gently take the fork from her hand. "Thank you, but you don't have to do that," I tell her. She looks over at one of the men who is sitting at the head of the table for his approval. He tells her, "Thank you, Anna. You may have a seat." So she sits down next to me, and as I continue eating, I don't know where to look because there's nothing but awkward silence and the sound of silverware scraping the dishes as everyone sits there eating. So I keep my eyes focused on my own plate. A few times throughout dinner, the woman Anna, who is sitting next to me, places her hand on my thigh, catching me off guard. When I glance over at her, she's smiling at me. I reach down and gently remove it multiple times, but each time that I do, she just continues smiling, and when I take another bite of my food, she lies her hand right back where it was. So finally, I just give up and leave it there. After dinner, I pull Susanna aside. "Thank you so much for everything. You have all been so kind and gracious, but I really have to get going now." "You're very welcome." "Well, at least let me send one of the women with you to keep you company for the night." "Go ahead, take your pick." "But may I make a suggestion? Anna really seems to like you," she tells me with a smile. "I'd really like it if you would come keep me company tonight," I reply. "Oh, I'm flattered, but I'm married." Feeling a little embarrassed, I answer, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." She laughs it off, calls Anna over, and places her hand in mine. "All right, well, the two of you have a pleasant evening." "You too," I reply in a whisper as we start heading down the driveway. We get about halfway down the driveway when I stop, realizing that I was in such a hurry to get back to my truck because of the fact that I made a huge ass out of myself that I forgot to change out of the suit that Susanna let me borrow. Anna stops too and looks at me with that same sweet smile. "You know what, I'll just change into my clothes that I have back in my truck, and then tomorrow morning before I leave town, I'll send the suit back along with Anna." Just as we begin walking again, that's when I start to hear sounds coming from the woods off to the side of us. I figure it must be some wild animal, probably just a deer. I mean, we are out here in the middle of nowhere. But then a moment later, I start to hear something that sounds just like footsteps directly behind me, so I slowly turn around, and I'm shocked to see a group of men standing there blocking our way. My first thought is, how in the hell did they manage to sneak up on us like that without me hearing them until they were right on top of us? My second is, what do they want? "Hey, is everything alright?" I ask them, worried that they may have followed me to start something because they think that I'm running away with one of their women. I hope she isn't married too. Maybe I should have asked before I agreed to spend the night with her. Yeah, that probably would have been a good idea. When the men just stand there staring at me, with cold blank looks on their faces, not responding, a nervous feeling washes over me. Something inside of me is saying that I should have listened to Caleb. I should have never come here. Then another one of them comes walking down the driveway, and when the others all turn to see who it is, I let go of Anna's hand and go racing straight for the road. They all come chasing after me, and just when my truck comes into sight, a gunshot rings out. I tell myself, "Travis, just keep going. You're almost there." And right when I reach the road, Anna leaps onto my back and grabs me around the throat, catching me off guard. I frantically spin around, trying to knock her loose, and when I finally manage to, that's when I notice that the man who is holding the rifle has it pointed right at me. Cornered, I raise my hands in the air. Whoa, hey, what's going on here? As the group slowly continues to surround me, the man holding the gun instructs, "Let's go. Get back up to the house now." For what reason? I question, not really wanting to know the answer. You'll find out soon enough. Now go, he shouts, this time ramming me in the back with the gun. When we reach the house, one of the other men knocks on the door, and then a moment later someone from inside opens it, allowing him entry. He returns after a minute and slides a red cloak around himself, then hands the man with the gun one as well. Then they proceed to guide me through the woods to a massive circle of their people, surrounding a large fire pit. I take a look around and see that hanging from a stick by its feet right above the fire is a goat. The man shoves me forward and I fall to my knees. Get up, keep walking, he screams at me. But all I can manage to do is just kneel there as tears well up in my eyes and a million horrible thoughts start running through my mind. Never would I have thought that this is the way that I was going to die. Just then, a woman dressed in all white, also wrapped in a red cloak, steps forward and stands right before me. She pulls up the sleeves of her cloak to reveal a tattoo on her right wrist, which looks oddly familiar to me, although I can't quite recall where I've seen it before. Then she stares right into my eyes and says, "We have been called here tonight to summon our Savior, and we ask that with these 2 blood sacrifices we are prepared to provide you with, that you bring back the soul of one of our dead." And that's when it all hits me. If the goat is clearly one of the sacrifices, which I know they are used for quite often, at least in all the horror movies that I've seen, then that must mean that I am the other. Now realizing that I'm probably going to die whether I try to run or not, my adrenaline starts pumping through my veins, sending a tingle down my spine. I leap up and push the man holding the gun to the ground, then make my way past him and the other men who are distracted by the woman reciting her speech. By the time they all realize what's going on, I've already made it out of the woods and am now racing toward the driveway. I run down it, screaming, begging and pleading for help as they trail behind me in their cloaks, holding their torches high in the air, now chanting. I manage to make it across the street and dive behind my truck for cover when someone starts shooting at me again. They let off shot after shot, and I can hear the bullets ricocheting off of the side of my truck. I finally manage to make it to the driver's side door, open it, and climb up inside, but before I can slam it shut, one of them comes walking around the front of my truck, and then another gunshot rings out. This time, I'm unable to dodge it, and it hits me right in my side. I cringe, but force myself to slam the door closed before they shoot at me again. I start up the engine as bullets continue to ricochet off of my truck and shatter my front windshield. Once I put the truck in drive, the first thing I do is plow down the bastard who is shooting at me. The others start to back off once they see what I have done, and they go running back across the street and up the driveway. So I put the truck in reverse, back it up a little, and then put it in drive again and go speeding after them. I managed to run most of them over, but some were able to leap into the woods before I hit them. After that, I go speeding through the town wrecking shit with my truck, not caring what I destroy, just wanting to get the hell out of Dodge. I don't slow down until I cross the Pennsylvania border. Then I drive straight through, all the way back to Kentucky, only stopping when absolutely necessary to refuel. My boss Lionel calls me over and over again, but I don't answer. I want to talk to him in person. When I arrive, I finally call him back and he agrees to meet me. "What in the hell happened?" he questions as soon as he sees me. "You tell me. You're the one who sent me out there." Before I can say another word, that's when I notice the tattoo on his right wrist, the same exact one that the woman had. When I saw hers for the first time, I knew that I had seen one just like it before, but I couldn't recall where I had seen it. But now I do. And I also remember that when I first picked up my load, how Lionel had mentioned something about only sending a driver out there once every year. Never once did I realize what he meant by that, until now. And now that I know for sure that he has something to do with whatever the hell it is that went on out there, anger washes over me, but I try my best to hide it. Because now that I've managed to escape, I plan on making sure that he doesn't get the chance to do this to anyone else ever again. Don't forget to subscribe for new stories weekly. See you next time on
Nina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.